Now that I'm seeing your background, I'd like you to tell us the story behind the images and the paintings behind your back.
Ah,
Just as a bit of an intro, a mini intro before the official intro. I think it's an interesting background, and I'm sure people are asking themselves, who's that in green, and who are the people behind you? There's a female there. I know who she is, but you know, uh,
uh-huh.
I don't want to take the shine away from you. So before we start, if you can give us context and an explanation of your background, that would be amazing.
Super. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mzamo. The background. Okay, let me start with the female. I don't know if you can see the female. The female, that's my mother. So the background is actually my role models, basically. It's just my role models, and that's my mother. My mom is my role model because she was a teenager when she got her first child in her age 14. She also had me in while she was a teenager. So my brother and I, my mother is a product of early teenage pregnancy. And not only that, then she became a domestic worker because she had to drop out of high school. Then she went to work as a domestic worker in Muizenberg and almost all the white people's houses. And then and when I was in high school, she decided to go back to school. So in high school, I was at school with my mother, but she was doing adult-based education and I was doing day school. And she finished high school, graduated in high school with strong results, which make her very smart, which then therefore makes me super smart because I hear from science that your intelligence comes from the mother, not so much from the father. So actually we inherit a lot from the mother, more than actually we think. We don't give our mothers more credit than they deserve. And so then my mom went to university in her close to age 40, because in her late 30s, she was in high school. Then close to late 40s, she was in university. She did an undergrad, she did a postgrad, and then she qualified as a social worker. So she only started working really as a professional in her senior, as close to over 40 or late 40s. So that's amazing for me. And then when she was in her 40s, she did another degree, she did another postgrad, and then in age 50, she did a master's at Stellenbosch University. So she's my visible role model. Out of every shit that she's been through, abuse, verbal abuse, physical abuse, being born black, woman, abusive partners, physically abusive partners, psychologically abusive partners, she managed to pull herself by her own shoestrings and be mentally strong. So that's my number one role model. The other role models are all my Pan-Africanist role models and Black consciousness role models. So that is next to my mother, that's Steve Biko, which majority of people know Steve Biko. I write what I like and Black consciousness leader. And I believe in Steve Biko's work. And I've read that book, I don't know how many times. So I believe and I admire him that he was willing to die and sacrifice for what he believed in. And he was a true activist more than a politician. He was a social activist. And I like that in him. So the other one then is Robert Sobukwe next to Steve Biko. I love Robert Sobukwe because I believe anyway that in any nation, you need a Robert Sobukwe and a Mandela. You need a Malcolm X and a Martin Luther King. In any nation where you only have a Mandela and no another alternative voice, look what it got us as South Africans, particularly Black South Africans. We over-compromised, or maybe we under-negotiated. Whereas if we had another voice that was stronger, it might have pushed the ANC to a different direction, to the direction it ended up with. So that's the thing that I believe in, that you must actually be concerned as a citizen if there's only Mandela or if there's only Robert Sobukwe. You need both. Just like in the US, where you had Martin Luther King and you had Malcolm X, the two you need. And those voices you need, because then they are contrarian voices, but they help each other. And so that was, and I love Robert Sobukwe because he was clear, and he was very clear why Pan-Africanism matters, why it matters that as Black people we must have our own voice, and why it matters that we can't have visitors dictating to us how we should live our lives. I mean, they're visitors, so we have to be nice and caring and respectful to visitors, but they can't now turn around and dictate to us what we should do and not do. So I like that idea. And then next to Robert Sobukwe is Frantz Fanon. Frantz Fanon wrote 2 books that I've read that decolonized my mind. And the first book was Black Skin, White Mask. I like that book a lot because it talks about inferiority complexes. It says both people are sick. Black people are sick because they suffer from inferiority complex. White people are sick because they suffer from an artificial superiority complex. And both have complexes that needs to be cured. Either one of them is actually flawed. Black people are not inferior. No white people are superior to Black people. So I like that a lot as an idea, and I read it when I was at age 18. So that kind of shaped me a lot in terms of what it means to be Black. And then next to Frantz Fanon is Thomas Sankara. So Thomas Sankara, president within this continent, very young at the time when he became a president, in his 30s, early 30s. He was a revolutionary. He really thought about what it means to be Black, what it means to support Black, by Black. I mean, he's the first president who didn't think we needed a convoy. Why do our ministers have long convoys and security? Who's going to kill our ministers? You know, honesty. Either than they must just do their job and be competent in their jobs. And so that really appealed to me. Then, what I like a lot about those 4 people, majority of them did things in their 20s. I mean, when Steve Biko wrote I Write What I Like, a lot of those thoughts were age 18 all the way to age 24, 25. They're young. I mean, same with Thomas Sankara, he was very young. And Frantz Fanon, when he wrote Black Skin, White Mask, he was in his 20s. So that they just make me feel like an underachiever. So when I look at them, they are my goat mountain. They are who I aspire to be like. And they are people that I think they've lived a life and they are still living with us. They are memorable. They've walked the talk. They're genuinely great citizens, but they are not perfect. But still, they are perfectly imperfect. Then the last person in green was a gift from a friend of mine in the UK. That's actually Jay-Z, the hip hop artist. And it's an alter ego of Jay-Z. And I like Jay-Z, but I actually like the Jay-Z now, the one 444 album and after that. I like that Jay-Z because he's economically free and he sounds mentally free. And he sounds like he has enough fuck off money and fuck off options that he can now say the things that needs to be said without worrying about getting shoved or side. He's got enough money. His money and Beyonce money combined is enough fuck off money for decades, if not for centuries. So that's what I like about him as well. It's just a constant reminder for me that if you want to have that alter ego and you want to be able to say some things that are uncomfortable, you better make sure that you've got your pocket covered, because sometimes it's necessary and practical that you must have your pocket covered. You must have your wallet covered, or else it's very hard to be courageous when you're broke. So those are the people. Oh, the last thing is, you see that I don't have a TV. So I asked a great designer and really amazing designer from Nigeria and furniture designer in Nigeria. He's amazing. And I asked him to make me this TV stand from Nigeria. And I asked him to make it because I was visualizing books, because I think TV on its own makes us not smarter. I think it actually makes us dumber. So I needed a combination of screens. But so I made that my TV screen, and my TV screen is books. So whenever my kids come over to visit, they want to watch TV, I just show them the TV screen, which is my books, and they get to read a book rather than only consume passive media. and passive content. I'm not against TV, but I think anything stretched too far becomes an error. And I think we need to find a balance between how we consume mediums. And it's healthy for us, and anything done too much is unhealthy for us. So for me, I don't think reading books too much is ever unhealthy. It's one thing I'm willing to be addicted to till I die. So that's it. I hope I gave you enough background.
Off the background. That's amazing. I love that thought that you put forward here when you said anything that gets stretched too much becomes an error. I can already see how I can apply it in everything, including work. So thank you very much for that. For me personally, what struck me the most about your background and having these sort of like expected heroes to say was seeing your mother part of that, which I think personally I've never done. You know, I think we passively live with the people that we live with, and then we get attracted by the obvious guys, you know, Bo Jay-Z, Bo Steve Biko, but we forget the gems that are the people that are close to us, our parents, our sisters, our cousins. You know, somebody might have a cousin who's doing amazing things, but because they're a cousin, you see them as a cousin and not being able to see the work that they do. So for me, it is a personal lesson to appreciate my parents more, appreciate and see my friends as they become great, and acknowledge that in that process, and not, you know, just see them as friends, but also see their greatness.